بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. اللهم لا فهم لنا إلا ما فهمتنا إنك أنت الجواد الكريم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وهدى يا رب العالمين. يا معلم آدم علمنا يا مفهم سليمان فهمنا. So yesterday we stopped on we covered الرفع. We only covered الضمة. We covered the entire الرفع. We actually finished the entire state of الرفع. So what is الرفع? Quickly. Okay, الرفع is a state of إعراب. It has its signs. It has its all the structures that are مرفوع. They have different signs. Where are you going? They have different signs for الرفع. Okay, or being in the state of الرفع. What does the word مرفوع mean? مجد. What does مرفوع mean? Do you know how I know what to write and what not to write? How do you guys? رفع is a state of إعراب. What does مرفوع mean? You're there. You're almost there. Huh? State of رفع. Okay. You're almost there. So what do we typically say مرفوع of? Do you guys remember I said, okay, majd, you have the flu. If you did, would I say majd is the flu? What would I say? Majd has the flu. Okay. Then, if I want to say a word is in a state of rafa', what do I say? No, I wouldn't say has. There's another way to say it. I just said it right now. Huh? Ahmed Bilal. Yeah, how do I say a word is in the state of rafa'? Huh? Not really. Yes. Marfu'. See how easy that was, Majd? Marfu' simply means that this word is in the state of rafa'. That's it. Right? Any questions about that? So we just need to review what? The structures and their signs to indicate that they're in the state of rafa'. Does that make sense? At this point, I just want you to know what information and how to look for that information in your notes. Okay? I don't need you to memorize. If you did, it would be nice. If you can't, at least I want you to know how to find your way getting the information you need from the matan or from your notes. So now we're going to go to the next state of i'rab, which is al-nasb. Okay? Okay? Al-nasb. Okay. Again, what is al-nasb? Simply a state of i'rab. Now we're going to know more about al-nasb by knowing the signs of al-nasb. Okay? Someone recite what Al-Imam Ibn Ajurrum, rahmatullah alayhi, nafa'na bi'ulumi, says. Okay, وَلِلنَّصْبِ خَمْسُ عَلَامَاتٍ. Al-fathatu. Number one is al-fathatu. Wal-alifu. Number two is al-alif. Number three is al-kasra. Al-ya'u. And then number five is حذف النون. Anyone have any questions so far? We're just saying the signs of al-nasb is number one, al-fatha, al-alif, al-kasra, al-ya, and then what? حذف النون. حذف means omission. النون means of the noon. How many of you are going to the event of Sheikh Umar Sulaiman? By show of hands. Okay, go benefit, please. Okay, raise your hand. Yeah, Masoud, you should go. Okay, you and are you going to Masoud? Why not? Why are you not going? Huh? Go to these circles, please. Go. What better? What's you have something better to do? Huh? Masoud, you have something better to do? You're going. Good. Please go benefit from these mashayikh, okay? That visit and be in these circles of ilm, okay? And also serve. Huh? Serve. What do I mean by serve? Volunteer. You want to volunteer, please reach out to Hadi, okay? He'll tell you where you need it most. I want everyone here to volunteer at some point. Okay? At some point, get in touch with Akhuna Hadi and ask him what you can do and help with. If I find you not volunteering, you're here taking every resource you can take. This very room we're in, who does it belong to? IR, right? Yeah, you have to volunteer. هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان. They give us the space for us to be able to learn. So the least you can do is return something. Right? They call it Raddul Jamil, right? To return the beautiful services you're given of giving us this space, you return the service as well, right? Okay, coming back to this. This is the Shaykh Umar Salam, what he's going to talk about is the interesting stuff. This is the boring stuff. خلاص كده? Right? This is the boring stuff because everybody's not here. Right? Anyway, so حذف النون is omitting the noon. Do you guys remember this noon? It was the one that we spent, 30 minutes on yesterday? You guys remember? So then removing it is a sign. And it's going to be for what structure? Huh? Al-af'al al-khamsa. Very good. Let's not say fi'l al-mudari' because if we say fi'l al-mudari' it could be what? It could be الذي لم يتصل بآخره شيء, but we don't mean that one. We specifically mean which one? The one that does have the dhamir attached to it. What's the easiest name we can give to those? Al-af'al al-khamsa. The 5 af'al. يفعلون تفعلون يفعلان تفعلان and then تفعلين, right? There is no such thing as يفعلين. Oh, mashallah, you guys are awake now. That's good, that's good. Okay, so let's start with, go in order. So the first sign is al-fatha. Al-fatha is going to be a sign for what, Ya Yusuf? Read the matan. في ثلاثة مواضع. Okay, it's going to be, now if you're okay with that, I'll go here, okay? So I don't have to erase anything. So al-fatha, okay? Okay. Al-fatha is going to be a sign for what? في ثلاثة مواضع. In 3. So we have 1, we have 2, and we have only 3 structures are going to be taking al-fatha as a sign for them being in the state of an-nasb. You guys see how this works, right? The first one is what? Al-ism al-mufrad. And then جمع التكسير. and الفعل المضارع. فعل المضارع. We're going to have a few. I'll get here and then we'll cover that fancy stuff that Yusuf is saying. Okay. So الاسم المفرد, for example, what here? I'll just use a very simple example. رأيت محمدا. What does that mean? I saw Muhammad. So رأيت محمدا. Do you guys see that Muhammadan has a fatha at the end? I know you guys are going to say, oh, that's 2 fathas, not 1 fatha. It's the same thing in this case, right? So 2 fathas is the same as fatha. 2 kasras is the same as kasra. 2 dhammas is the same as dhamma. So Muhammad is ism mufrad. Anyone have any questions about that? Or anyone have any difference of opinion here? So do we all agree Muhammad is ism mufrad? Because it only indicates one object of type Muhammad, right? Okay. Or you can say type human if you want. And then, but type Muhammad means what? Because you can have two Muhammads, Muhammadani, right? And you can have many Muhammads, Muhammadun, right? Okay, so Jam'u taksir is what? You guys remember Jam'u taksir? The broken plural. How do we decide, Ahmed Bilal, how do we decide it's broken or broken plural? How do we decide? Do you guys remember how we decide? Yes.
The original mufrad is changed and the ending is not ina.
Good. At. It's the easiest way. There's another way too. Can someone tell us the other way? Did someone miss what Layth said? Layth said that if it does not fit the format of una or ina for the masculine, right? Or if it doesn't fit atin or atun, right? For the female sound plural, right? If it doesn't fit both, then it has to be Jam'u taksir. Because it didn't fit both templates and it became broken. What is the other way to determine broken?
The structure isn't the same as the singular form of the word if it breaks.
Right. Which is exactly what breakage means. Is if there's any type of alteration or change to the original structure. So for example, رجل has ra that has a fatha, jim that has dhamma, and then the lam is the harf i'rab, it doesn't matter. But it becomes rijal. So the ra takes on a kasra instead of the original fatha in rajulun. Right? I'm saying this again and again so we can, inshallah, finally sticks, eventually, right? So that's why we declare this type as Jam'u taksir. So speaking of rijal, let's just use rijal. Say رأيت, I saw رجالا, right? Any questions so far? So you just want to say I saw men, رجالا. Here is what? The fatha. And this is Jam'u taksir, right? This is Jam'u taksir, and this is the fatha here. And the fatha is there. Okay, الفعل المضارع. For example, what do we mean by الفعل المضارع? الذي لم يتصل بآخره شيء. Number one. But then Yusuf added something else. Yusuf, what did you say? الفعل المضارع? إذا دخل عليه ناصب. Okay? إذا دخل. Let's kind of unpack that a little bit. إذا دخل عليه ناصب ولم بآخره شيء. Which that part we know already. ولم يتصل بآخره Okay, we know ولم يتصل بآخره شيء, right? And nothing is attached to it. At its end. Let's just say. Okay. So we already knew that. But الفعل المضارع here says إذا دخل عليه ناصب. If an agent of what? Anyone apart from Walid, Akram, anyone who's done this for the first time, apart from you, someone else kind of predict what this means. If an agent of what? Nasib is an agent of what? Ahmed D, what do you think? Adam D, what do you think? Nasib sounds like what? Yeah, sounds like Nasib, right? So Nasib just means an agent of what state of I'rab? Nasib, very good. So you want to call Nasib what? Common cold? since rafa was the full. Okay. So nasib, let's say, is something that gives you the common cold. How about that? And then you develop the symptoms, which are going to be the signs that we're covering. Does that help, Adam, or am I just... I don't like diseases, by the way. I don't like diseases, I said. But they're just like i'rab, we have to get through this and deal with this the same way we have to deal with diseases and all of that, right? So an agent of nasb, right? Ya Mustafa, where are you going? Go. Nasb, and nothing is attached at its end. For example, if I say تدخل هند, and Hind is entering, right? So I meant to say لن تدخل هند. So لن, for example, so Hind will not what? Enter. Now I want us to kind of apply this statement here. What is the nasib? إذا دخل عليه nasib. What is the nasib here? Len. Len is the... So let me just write nasib here, okay? Nasib, or I'll write in Arabic as well. All right. And then tadkhula is mansub. Why is it mansub? What does mansub mean? What do you think, Adam did? What do you think mansub means? Marfu' means to be in the state of rafa. Mansub means what? To be in the state of? Marfu' means to be in the state of rafa. Mansub means to be in what state? State of nasb. Do you guys see the pattern? Mansub, nasb. Marfu', rafa. Okay? Abdullah, following? Mus'ab, mansub is in what state? Rafa? Are you sure? Marfu' means to be in what state? Rafa. Then, using the same logic, mansub is in what state? Nasb. Good. Okay. Alhamdulillah ala salam. Okay, so because lan here indicates that it is going to make this what? Nasb, because it is a nasb, it is an agent that causes nasb. Going back to the common cold example, say that lan is what is going to cause or spread whatever, the common cold, and then tadkhula is going to catch the what? The common cold. And what's the sign? How do you know tadkhula caught the cold? Al-fatha, right? Al-fatha, right? Does that make sense? I really don't think I can make it easier than that. I think or should I use like some skibidi examples and stuff? I'm not good at that department, so I couldn't come up with something from using that information. Yeah, I could use tadkhula by itself. Yeah, I could. I just wanted to show you that tadkhula cannot just be mansub in space, because the Imam says إذا دخل عليه ناصب. So there has to be the presence of a nasib there. All right, does that make sense? Because if I have only tadkhul by itself, what is it going to be? In what state? Rafa, because rafa is the default state. Just write it somewhere. Rafa is the default state. Until we see anything that, because that's what this means, right, Yusuf? Is saying that the condition for this to be mansub is إذا دخل عليه nasib, which means what's the original state? Marfu', we already covered, right? Rafa. which is why Al-Imam Ibn Ajurrum orders this bab in what order? Rafa', Nasb, and then Khafd, and then Jazm. That's why I always say the Imam did not waste anything on this book. Even the order is purposeful. It's not something he did by mistake. I don't believe it's something he did by mistake. Right? So just keep that in mind, that everything about this book is, it's a book that has a lot of barakah. Salah and Yusuf, who raised your hand first? Salah? تفضل يا Salah.
So تدخل is the فعل المضارع.
تدخل, yes. Len is what is going to cause it to be تدخل. So we have a fatha at the end here. See the fatha at the end here? On the lam we have a fatha. It should have been تدخل, but because of len it became تدخل. Because len causes nasb. Is fatha, exactly. Because the sign is fatha. Don't forget this, ya mashayikh, right? The fatha here is the sign of what? Nasb. So tadkhula, we have two things here. Tadkhula is mansub. Actually three. The first thing is that tadkhula is mansub. Or should we work in order? Let's work in order. We have a nasib. This nasib has to cause nasb. It's an agent of the state of nasb. Which means whatever it comes before is going to have, or is going to be in the state of nasb. Then the third thing is we have to find out what is the sign for that. So we have to find out the structure. And when we find out the structure, we will find what? The right sign to indicate the nasb. And what's the sign to indicate here that it's mansub? The fatha, because we're in the chapter of, or we're in the subcategory of al-fatha under al-nasb. Does that make sense? You guys can see we're taking our time with this bab. It's not for any other reason. It's because I know we're covering a lot of information, and then the information is a little bit repetitive, but then each repetition is unique in some type of way. So it is annoying, and I do understand that. But it's one of those things, you just have to do it, right? So inshallah, just bear with me and bear with ilm al-nahu, and inshallah the fruits will be there for the rest of your life. Yes? That's a good question. The sign of i'rab, is it always going to be in the last letter of the word? Most likely. But it could be in any of the last ones. Because for example, muslimina, Yusuf, it's not the noon, right? It's the ya. Muslimuna, muslimin. The harakat, that's a very, very good question, and the answer is yes. Absolutely. So now Yusuf is trying to get us to move to a more complicated issue, which is the structures with which we do i'rab by letter and the ones that we do by harakat. So some of them are only done with harakat. We've noticed ism al-mufrad in raf' state and in nasb state, it is what? Under a what? So if you look at here, if you look here at the, if you look here, we have a mix of things. Some signs are what? Harakat, very good. And some signs are what? Huruf, which is going to be another line of division. We're going to call some of them mu'rabatun bil harakat and the other ones mu'rabatun bil huruf. And this is going to be the chapter right after this chapter. Okay? Which even what? Adds a layer of, not complexity, I think it removes a layer of complexity. It makes it even easier, because if we lump these things together based on what they have in common, then it becomes easy to sort, right? To sort the information. What's the second question? We are going to memorize them. That's a very good question, Yusuf. No, that's a very good question. We have to. Just like if we knew something causes a disease, we have to, right? Just so we track, oh, you know what, you were standing in a place that has a lot of the female Anopheles mosquito, right? What does it cause in Africa? Malaria, right? Yeah. If you live in Africa, you'd know this. So then what would the doctor tell you? Stay away from places that are infested with it, right? So in this case also, we need to memorize the nawasib so we know, you know what, every time we see these nawasib, they are going to cause a nasb. Okay. And these nawasib are only specific to what? What's this? Ism or fi'l? Fi'l, very good. They're only going to be specific to fi'l. So now guess where the Imam brings them? He brings them in Babul al-Af'al, very good. He brings them in Babul al-Af'al because naturally that's where they belong. Because they're only specific to al-Af'al, specifically all the Af'al or fi'l mudari'. Al-fi'l al-mudari' specifically. So both al-Af'al al-khamsa and al-fi'l al-mudari' الذي لم يتصل بآخره شيء. I know this is a lot, but the more you write down, I believe the easier it will be for you to connect these dots. And that day, when that day comes, you will recite إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا مُبِينًا. All right? Because it will be a great victory for you. Yes.
Sheikhna, why does the Imam use إِذَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ نَاصِب? How come like all of them aren't like that? إِذَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهِ
Because the other ones, they don't have dukhul al-nawasib, right? And just bear one thing in mind is that nasib means it's a terminology to say something that caused nasib. But in generically, Akram has a point because ra'aytu here would be a nasib as well. Does that make sense? But we're not going to call it nasib because we're going to cover that in bab marfu'at al-asma'. Okay? You guys are asking very philosophical questions. But I don't have a problem with them. I just think they're going to confuse majd back there. And I don't want majd to feel out of place. Right? Majd. We want to keep this where it's at, right? And I agree with you. We have to be disciplined and stay where we're at and not jump, right, around. No, I think that's the best format of learning, right? But also I think these questions are what? Questions that are beneficial, right? So inshallah, don't be, if you haven't understood these things yet, don't be hard on yourself and don't be disappointed. And also, if you're asking these questions, it does not mean anything but that you're also trying to benefit. Because we have a very diverse group here, right, of students. Any more questions, Salah?
So the fatha is not the sign.
Is not the?
It's not the nasb that's added, like the Imam said.
It's not the nasib. By the way, let's look at the structure of nasib. What is nasib? What structure is that? Fa'il. Okay. Look at this, nasib. Okay. And then fa'il. Fa'il does what? Huh? Af'il. Very good. Nasib does what? Do you guys see nasib and fi'il is the same? Do you guys see what's going on here? I don't see it. Raise your hand and I'll explain further. But you have to let me know. Please raise your hand. Okay, 50-50. I'm not quite sure. I think I might know what's going on, but I'm not really quite sure. Okay, good. I don't know what's going on. Okay. Please raise it up. I want you to be comfortable because everyone is born not knowing and then they be. So when you let me know, I will do the work and then hopefully, inshallah, we'll get closer at least. Okay. So the Arabic language it's a language that is heavily dependent on the structural changes and morphing of the words themselves. What do I mean by that? Fi'l means what? Fi'l means a deed, okay? Or an action. What does an action need? The doer of the act. صح ولا لا? Okay, so then who's fa'il then? Fa'il means the doer. Now nasb means whatever it means. I don't want to get into that, but the Arabic language nasb is to put in place or to fix something somewhere. That's what it means, right? Let's say fixing, okay? Fix or place something in a position, right? Who's doing that? The guy who does that, the Arabs have a particular morphing of this word to fit it, the structure of the one who does that. So I'm not going to say the one who does nasb. What am I going to say? Nasib. Doer of nasb. Now we're not learning ilm al-sarf here, but I just want to give you this very beautiful nature of the Arabic language, is that it helps with, it's very specific, right? And I think we have that in the English language as well. Like when you say educate, the person who does that is what? An educator, right? Same thing here. So does that make sense? So what causes nasb is a nasib. And then under the same, following the same line of logic, what causes rafa' is what? Rafi', yes. Yeah. What causes rafa' is rafi'. Okay. Does that help? Okay, so now I don't know what's going on. Raise your hand, please. I still don't know what's going on. Okay. What's going on is a person who educates is an educator, right? So a person who does nasb is a nasib in the Arabic language. So nasib would be the educator in this case. Just like a fa'il, doer, means they did the fi'l, the deed. Does it make sense now? Okay.
But how do you know that is a nasib?
Because we're going to learn that. We're going to memorize that. We're going to get a list of all the nawasib, like Yusuf mentioned, because we need to know them, right? Because there are what helps us know that there is, or at least if we see something, if we see a fi'l that is mansub, fi'l mudari' that is mansub, what are we going to look for? There has to be a nasib somewhere. You don't just get sick, right? Something has to have contracted it to you, right? Yeah. And that's just how things work. Sister Faiza, you had a question? Did I answer it, or do you have a question?
Yes, just for clarification, Sheikh. So when it says والفعل المضارع إذا دخل عليه ناصب, I know you just said right now, but that literally only applies إذا دخل عليه ناصب only applies to فعل مضارع.
Yes.
The same way that إذ هو الفعل المضارع الذي لم يتصل به آخر شيء from رفع only applies to فعل مضارع.
Yes. Well, it would apply to all, but then, like you mentioned, dhamma would be, yes, in that sense, الفعل الذي لم يتصل بآخر شيء, the dhamma would be applicable to it, yes.
And then I had a tajweed question earlier.
Okay.
Was that it's kind of dumb, I think, but did the Prophet ﷺ read in tajweed, and did things like ikhfa and iqlab, and did that exist at that time?
Absolutely.
Or did the sciences come after?
So the recitation did exist the same way, hopefully, inshallah, the same exact way we have it today. But they didn't call it these terminologies because did they need to?